G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another episode of TreeLaw. Now, with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody good tree law. Posted by Druskell. Seattle Park nails the spite. Poison one tree, will plant four in its place. Notice, vandalism of vegetation/tree removal. In April 2019, the Seattle Parks and Recreation SPR was made aware that an unknown person or persons fatality damaged two Douglas fir trees at the southeast corner of Magnolia Park. Herbicide was poured into holes that were drilled into the trunks of each tree. There were scars on the trunk of each tree, indicating that this was not the first time that these trees had been vandalized. SPR has identified the herbicide that was used, and we believe that there is no risk to adjacent trees or people using the park. One tree was removed, and 4 trees were planted in its place. At this time, SPR does not know who committed this crime. If you have any information regarding this act, please contact SPR Property and Acquisition staff at 206-684-4860. Now, if you guys are unaware of what this subreddit is, the auto moderator gives a good idea of it. This subreddit is for tree law enthusiasts who enjoy browsing a list of tree law stories from other locations, subreddits, news articles, etc., and is not the best place to receive answers to questions about what the law is. There are better places for that. If you're attempting to understand more about tree laws in regards to particular situations, please redirect your questions to r/legal advice for the US or the appropriate legal advice subreddit for the location, and then feel free to cross-post that thread here for posterity. So yeah, that gives you a good idea of what this is all about, guys. In regards to the post, Rosie for the win says, "What's most interesting to me regarding this photo is that despite being laminated and attached to a post, this sign was clearly torn in half and rehung again with packing tape. Neighborhood drama? Not to mention the malicious and pre-planned described act of killing several trees in such a particular way. I wonder the motivation, like, was it bordering their property? Grievance with the Parks Department? I need details, people." The area this was in is roughly here. All the houses look southwest/west onto Puget Sound. My guess is this was view-related, and it wouldn't surprise me in that neighborhood. Looking in the street view, you can pretty much tell which houses did it. That's a big ol' to me, not gonna lie. Several years ago, we were renting a very modest mid-century house that was uphill from Lake Washington shoreline by about 3 lots and about 50 to 70 feet vertically. Across the street and further uphill was a recently built house that we dubbed the Fortress. Unconfirmed word was that it was owned by a Taiwanese millionaire who bought it and only visited for a month or 2 a year. We rarely saw any activity there. The only interaction we had with the owners/occupants the entire time we lived there was a single encounter with an older Asian lady who kept badgering us, asking us over and over, how much to cut down trees? The trees in question were a row of slim tall trees on our side of the road. Over the years, other big trees in the area, not far from the water, had rings of bark stripped from around their bases and in the middle of the night in order to kill them. Enough people, it seems, will pull crap like that and kill trees just to improve their water views if they think they can get away with it. I'm really happy to see the Parks Department not stand still for this. Our next post is by user Snowboarder, with this picture saying, "My neighbor went overboard." Oh my god, what has happened to this beautiful tree? The guy that owns the home next to me said he was going to trim some branches from my fully grown Japanese plum tree because it was touching his roof, and I came home to this. I'm in shock and don't know what to do other than try to not strangle the guy. Oof, get an arborist and a lawyer, and some nice thick gloves so you don't get strangle blisters, or leave DNA evidence. Make sure they don't fit and make a big deal about it at the trial. Ah yes, the old OJ tactic. I think he is only allowed to trim the portions that cross over into his property, anything passing through a vertical plane extending upwards from the property line. If he trims anything on your property, or trims anything anywhere that causes harm to the overall health of the tree, I'm pretty sure that's a big no-no. That would be the case had OP not told him it was okay for him to cut branches. He's going to argue that OP gave him permission, and that he is taking more off than OP desires was just a miscommunication. Posted by user Birdabad, titled, Builders left a huge pile of trees/vegetation on our lot and is saying that they will not remove them. Located in Georgia, are they responsible for clearing this? That's quite a lot of stuff, goddamn. I am not a lawyer. Are they your builders? Yes, we're set to close this Friday, and we just found this in the very back corner of our lot yesterday. It was not disclosed. I would check any contracts you signed. I don't think it's specified in the contract, but I'll look over it. Thank you. Most contracts do have some information in them about the removal of construction debris. The most important thing, refuse to close on the house. That is the only power you have. Once you've closed, they can peace out. If you refuse to close until it is fixed, it will get fixed. Yup, this is exactly why you do walkthrough inspections the day before close. I think it's pretty typical for the finest brush and sticks to be left behind absent an agreement. I live on a freshly cleared lot for 3 years, and still clearing away wood the builders left. Oof. I'm not a lawyer, but as was said above, don't close on the work. If you have, then it will be a lot harder. You may have to go to court. Another option, if you have the experience and room to do it, is just to burn it. You will have to file for a burn permit, and it might scar the area for a couple of months, but it would be a way to deal with it. Make sure you have a water source on hand and keep things small. Abide by any other local laws. Thanks. The problem is it's far from any water source, and we can't burn anything until September due to a yearly burn ban in our area. I recently had a similar experience. If you buy the land, then waste is likely your responsibility. But if they dumped illegally, without the permission of the previous landowners, then they are responsible both in civil and criminal courts. The legal battle will be a hassle. Even if you win the case, you will lose. I suggest that A, you write a letter threatening legal action, but then B, when the builder does not respond, just burn the pile and be done with it. Maybe just don't buy the house from those a-holes. Yeah, we're hoping we can talk them into moving it and have a burn ban until September, and it's the waste from 4 lots, not just ours. Thanks for the advice. Professional forester and consulting arborist here. If you can get the builder to remove it, cool. If not, don't go through all this legal bullcrap for what amounts to up to $500 worth of cleanup. Call a tree care company and it'll be gone in 2 hours of chipping. Of course, all this depends on access. If it's easily accessible, it's easily fixed. If a truck and chipper can't access it and it's a long drag to the closest access, it'll be more difficult to clean up. But realistically, this is a small pile of brush that you're looking to turn into a mountain of trouble and expenses once lawyers get involved. Thanks for this. We just had no idea the cost and hassle involved in this, which was worrying. We don't have vehicle access through our lot, but there is one through our neighbor's lot, so we're hoping they'll allow us to remove it this way. There's a dirt path through their lot that was used to dump this, so it probably won't be a huge deal. Also, if you would wish to do any veggie and fruit growing in years to come, that pile of wood chips would be very useful to have. Oh my god, it's from a local. I have to help this man's. Posted by Dak Butt, titled, Neighbor has couscous, queen palm, that hangs over our fence. Do I have any legal right to request its removal? Hi there, I'm an Ippy, Queensland, Australia, and our neighbours have a cocos palm that is right on our boundary. I know I said cuckoos, I was just playing around. It drops so many fruit or seeds in our lawn, but for them it's in a garden. The tree is far too tall for me to climb in any way to cut down the fruits and flower clusters. In Australia, the cocos palm is invasive, but it's not specifically targeted in legislation to be removed. Our dogs eat the fruit, there's hundreds, and apparently it can be mildly poisonous to dogs. Is there anything I can do? Thanks heaps. Edited, I have researched more on the toxicity to dogs, and it seems they're fine. It was just one website that suggested they mightn't be. However, there are many more reports of dogs eating the seeds and having blockages. And also, more seriously, the cocos palm is very damaging to the native bat, the flying fox. Oh, I didn't know that. And our area/suburb is very well known to have a colony of flying foxes. I have a Ficus religosa on my property that has hundreds and hundreds of flying foxes. The more you know. I used to have one of those growing in my backyard, and actually the property that I'm living in back home has a whole bunch of cocos palms on it, like everywhere. They're all over the suburb. That's insane. Didn't know, I thought, because I see bats eating them all the time, I thought it was good for the bats. Anyway, so looking at the public data for Queensland, I got to here, which is just in Queensland agricultural side of the government section. I went to the resolving disputes section, and then what to do if your neighbour's tree is affecting you. It seems to cover your concern from what I've read, and it outlines the different types of steps you can take. Of course, the best course of action is to talk it out with your neighbour. I get the feeling you haven't. Before you bring down the hammer of the law on them, you should go over and talk to them about your concern, that it could make your dog sick, primarily, and that the fruits are making a mess of your yard. The queen palm is technically listed as invasive, sure, but it's an internationally popular ornamental tree. This is probably why it's not policed. It's not by dint of species and nuisance like kudzu or bamboo. This particular tree is just a little messy. So after you talk to your neighbour about your concerns, try to work out how to abate the problem. Since you're worried for your dog and yard, and they probably don't want the tree to be killed by poor trimming, it's in both of your interests to get a professional out to take care of it, especially since it's too high for you to deal with yourself. Of course, if they cuss at you then slam the door, then you might want to look down at the list at other options. Not knowing your neighbours, they're probably reasonable, and you should remember to be reasonable too, and not just throw the problem in their laps. Thank you, kind stranger. Your words are helpful and wise. I'm dreading the conversation a little bit. It would be easier in the short term to just be passive-aggressive and throw the seeds back into their lawn, but I know that's unhelpful and immature. Still very tempting though. But I'll be a big boy and go and have the adult conversation with them. That's a good idea. I hate queen palms. However, despite owning more of these palms than I care to count, I've never ever had any of the dogs that I've lived with here eat the fruit and get sick. Also, squirrels eat that fruit and do just fine. Just because you do not like having these palms hanging over your fence doesn't mean that they have to cease to exist. My suggestion, unpopular as it's going to be on this thread, is that you relax. It's okay if there are palms you don't like that you have to look at, and if you're really worried about the fruit, pick it up. Yeah, I really probably do need to chill about it. It's become a thing in my head. Perhaps my neighbours can just get an arborist to cut off the 2 seed clusters. Well, I'm glad my ippy brother was able to solve this one. Good on you, Dak, but Godspeed to ya. Posted by user SadTrees10, titled, Help evaluating if there is anything more I should be doing in a tree trespass dispute. Here is a set of events that happened over the last 2 to 3 years, and I request your guidance. Episode 1. 2.5 years ago, during a severe storm with winds, top of a tree on our property broke off and landed on a neighbour's backyard. We had previously done trimming of the tree just months ago, and the arborist said it was in good shape and we need to check back in 3 years. We gave our insurance details and our insurance company offered to clean up the branch, given that we had recently done the inspection and we could not have foreseen this. Neighbours rejected the offer, wanted the tree cut, and all the other 7 trees cut in our backyard. They threatened lawsuits, and them churning through 6 lawyers and months of back and forth later, they go silent. No lawsuit filed. Our insurance company provided lawyer representation for us. We did more arborist inspections, and they said the trees do not need to be removed. Oh, and the fallen branch is still there. Episode 2. Last year, while walking in the yard, I noticed a strong diesel smell, and upon closer inspection, it was apparent that someone had poured diesel on the roots of the concerned trees, and more trees, with salt in a trench around the tree. I learned from the internet this is a thing to kill trees. Why would they do this to kill beautiful trees? We reported them to the police. We have a lawsuit on them as a result. They made it incredibly hard to serve them. Finally, they accepted it and immediately filed the lawsuit on us for episode 1. They do not have a lawyer for episode 1, they are representing themselves. Meanwhile, they are not responsive on any communication, and it is incredibly hard to work with them. So we went for summary judgment for the lawsuit they brought on us, but they used tactics and got it postponed twice for another 3 months. Judge noticed that, and he was not happy about them dragging it. Both my lawyers are excellent. They are very good at explaining things to me. I'm very worried about the neighbor. Could you please help me with the following? A. What is the neighbor's incentive to keep postponing and not being responsive? B. Am I missing something else that I should do in my best interest? C. If the court says we have to remove 7 to 8 trees, who would have to bear the cost? We love the trees and we hate to lose them. This is so unfair that they/someone poison the trees and we have to lose the trees and pay for it to get removed. I know life can be unfair, but still. I omitted more crazy stuff, including them bad-mouthing us to our neighbors, HOA, TV station, da-da-da-da-da. Thank you so much. So Driving the Skeleton, very wise man, says, I think the reason they're dragging it out is twofold. They are trying to wear you down so you'll just give up, and/or they're trying to get a court date that you can't and won't show up to, in which case they'll win by default. It sounds like you're doing everything in your power. Just make sure you know your dates and deadlines for court stuff. Your lawyers will likely be very good about that, so you shouldn't stress too much about it. Your last question will likely be determined by the courts. Good luck with your case, and I'm sorry to hear about your trees. I hope you're able to plant 2 trees for each one you've lost. Obligatory, I'm not a lawyer. Not a lawyer, but they may be dragging it out in the hopes that you'll give up due to spending money in lawyer fees. As a side note, I would recommend putting up some security cameras and maybe a motion sensor light in case they try to trespassing to cause any more damage. Good luck. I can't help you with question A, but this might help with B and C. I am not a lawyer. You had no responsibility for a tree part breaking off of a healthy tree and landing in their yard. That's considered an act of God legally, and for insurance purposes, so you had no liability. I'm surprised your insurance company played ball with them at all. By the same token, if their tree's branch had landed in your yard, you'd have no legal expectation of assistance for any portion inside your property line. It's yours now, and you own it. When you buy a house, you buy your neighbor's trees to an extent as well, for better or for worse. Make sure you have plenty of video evidence, photos, and whatnot for the looming destruction of your trees. Get a certified arborist who's trained in evaluation to estimate the replacement costs of your trees in their present state of maturity, because that's what your neighbors will owe you. That can easily go into 6 figures depending on size and maturity, location, and other factors. In some states, treble damages may even apply, even without proving malicious intent. Yes, makes sense. I agree that we and our insurance has worked with goodwill intent to help them out. However, on the other case, without a video proof, how likely is it to convince the court that they are the liable party here? Depends on you and the fight within you. This is a near slam dunk case legally, and is only yours to lose. Few have video proof of something like this, but they win if their story is compelling and tight in the courtroom. Use what you got. Posted by user, Bullis is my reason too. Titled, Neighbor's tree is growing into my fence, looking to replace my fence. What are my options? And here's the picture. Oh my god, that tree is gonna fall over, it looks like. What the hell? And look at the state of that fence. Oh my god. I'd like to see a photo of the whole tree. Hard to tell if that's a recent or historic lean. What I see from this is concerning. Certified arborist and risk assessor. I'd suggest getting a consult from a local arborist at minimum. Same here. The branch structure doesn't seem to show it grew this way. A few branches seem to have changed the growth direction, and I'm leaning towards this happened a few years ago. Hard to say though without getting a good real look. Edit, I think I was mixing a few branches up from behind the tree, and I'm not sure about the previous comment. That being said, the branch structure is still off, I just can't tell if any of the newish growth has changed direction or not. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that tree falling? I see a main apice, all diagonal. Maybe call an arborist and give you better advice? Agreed. Trees do not grow naturally with their apex and primary trunk at an angle. Sure, some trees may split down low and grow in a V formation, but this looks like a single trunk tree that is falling. OP may want to work with his neighbor to have the whole thing removed. One heavy snowfall and that tree is coming down. That tree does not look structurally sound. It's teetering into your property. Did you discuss anything with the neighbor yet? No, the house is currently on the market. It was a foreclosure that some investor bought up and flipped. Oof, that's basically all the advice. Just get that tree taken down, get an arborist, get out of there. Posted by user skr4, titled, "Trees are basically uprooted and falling, neighbor tree. It's falling over our property line and might take down a net we built." Oh my god, what? Oh, that's so sad. Why did the neighbors let this happen to these trees? That looks like land erosion, doesn't it? Like that land is just falling down. Obvious question, but have you talked to your neighbor? Yeah, just told me it's on the list, lol. They said they just need to cut them out and hopefully they don't fall anymore. We had a pretty bad storm recently, which may have uprooted them even more than they were. Send them a certified letter about your concerns. This way they can't argue that they had no idea. Some people also send a copy to themselves as proof. Next, when the trees fall or start to damage your fence, you call their property insurance company and file a claim. The trees on their property are their responsibility. If it can be shown that the trees were unhealthy or not being taken care of properly, that is a mark against the neighbors. Source: live in Florida and had a healthy tree fall on a fence the neighbor put up to keep his cattle off our property due to a hurricane. He didn't want to fix it until after the letter was sent showing the tree was healthy when the storm blew it over, as an act of God. Not the greatest picture, but we are worried about being liable to deal with these once they fully come down and destroy the fences and our net. Wondering if we don't take action right now, or they don't deal with it, how can we act? Pototo72 puts it pretty well. This is more of a fan club. Head over to r/legal advice. Damn it, it's a good fan club. We're strong in r/TreeLaw. This tree looks pretty unhealthy. If your neighbor doesn't remove it and it falls over on your property, your neighbor could be liable. I really need a better picture to fully understand the problem. An MS Paint drawing would genuinely really help. What is that? Oh my god. Well, no offense, but I'm even more confused now. So if I understand this masterpiece, is it the roots that are going to disrupt your property, or whose tree is it? Is it their tree falling onto their property, but the roots coming up disrupting your property? He says the tree is on their property and falling from theirs onto mine. Taken on their property as we kind of share the front lawn space right there. I think I'm done with this post, man. Ah, hell yeah, an r/entitled people post. By user French Polka Dot. Titled, "Entitled neighbor sneaks onto our property and cuts down the old oak tree to have a better view." I can't get over that picture. It's so bad. Oh my god. Oh, sorry. So this is a story of... Oh, okay, I just cut that out. I've calmed down now. So this is a story of when I was a child and was living at my parents' house. For context, my parents and I live in France, and they bought some land 25 years ago. Now, the land plot was located on a hill and had an incredible view of Mont Blanc. At that time, we just had one neighbor, and our house was quickly constructed. A few years later, the area became quite popular, and all the available plots in the hill were bought/constructed. Now, when I was about 14 or 15 years old, we already knew that one of our neighbors, entitled neighbor, was a piece of work. I only remember that she was super weird, like walking naked in their driveway that was right below my window, but can't recall much more. One day, entitled neighbor comes by our house and asks to talk to my dad. She says that she is hiring a gardener to clean up the bushes on her side of her property, and is asking nicely if said gardener can trim some of our tree branches that are crossing to her side. No problem, as in France, it's expected to cut the branches that are bridging into your neighbor's property side. My dad offers to do it himself, but entitled neighbor insists that it's best if her gardener does it. Entitled neighbor and dad agree. A few days or weeks later, we go on vacation and forget a little about the whole ordeal. Well, you can already guess that we came home to a big surprise. Turns out that trimming does not mean the same thing to some entitled neighbors out there. A whole tree was missing, like a big whole tree. We decided to keep our calm and go to entitled neighbor's house to hear what she has to say for her defense. Guys, this entitled neighbor told her gardener to cut down our old oak tree so that she can have a better view on the Mont Blanc. She even acts shocked to learn that was an oak tree and tried to explain to us that the gardener said it was just a scrub/random trees. We were furious at the audacity of the woman. Turns out that entitled neighbor thought she was entitled to have a view on the Mont Blanc, as, since she moved in a few years after us, she never got a chance to see the landscape due to our trees. Like, entitled neighbor bought her house knowing it didn't have a view of the landscape, but thought after 10 years of having our trees, it's time to cut them down. We tried to hear some more from entitled neighbor's gardener, because the guy obviously went on our property when we weren't there and cut down an old tree without our consent. He said that entitled neighbor told him we've been neighbors for so long and that she had our consent to take it down. I wish I could say we have some sort of revenge or even got it replaced, but to buy a full-size tree is really expensive. The best we accomplished was to have her give us a bit of money to buy another tree. I'd like to remember that even though we didn't have enough to buy another oak, we bought a tree with even more branches. Edit. Thanks a lot for the reply, guys. For those of you asking and wondering, a few years after this incident, my parents got divorced, we moved out of the house and sold it. At the time, we thought it was more valuable to try to keep a decent relationship with our neighbors instead of trying to sue the entitled neighbor. To be fair, it was the only time entitled neighbor crossed the border, otherwise she was just a bit crazy, but nothing too serious. Alright, I've finally managed to stop laughing at that stupid TreeLaw MS Paint. I didn't expect to find a gem, but oh my god, you do some searching, you don't stop laughing for 10 minutes. I hope you guys enjoyed this one today. I'm gonna throw you back to outro, Marcus. Hope you guys really enjoyed that one. I couldn't stop laughing, I'm not gonna lie. I know that some of these ones didn't have good endings, that's for sure, but what can you do? Alright guys, that's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to tell me what you thought about it down in the comments down below. If you're new to the channel, also don't forget to subscribe. It would really help out with my channel growth. And also, a huge shout out to my channel patrons and members. I just love you guys and thank you for supporting me on this journey. If you guys are new to the channel and you'd like to support me, links are down below for the Patreon, or you can click the join button next to subscribe if you'd like to become a channel member. Alright guys, that's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.